Hello, what's good everyone? My name is Natty Elk and welcome to my channel. If you are new on my channel, consider subscribing, right? Don't forget to turn on the notifications so that you don't miss out on any of my videos, right? And yeah, of course, I'm going to have like interesting videos coming your way very soon. But with all that being said, let's learn something today, right? I saw this video and I think it's actually a very good video if, we get to learn something from it, something we don't really know, because how the saying goes, when you talk or when you open your mouth, it's like you're just repeating the things that you already know. But when you listen, it's like you are learning, you are getting in new information. So let's just do that and let's go.
These things were hidden by the polymaths. They were hidden by the philosophers. The moon is 2,160 miles.
I hope this sound is okay now. I mean, last time I forgot to, turn on and off some features here. So someone told me like there was too much disturbance coming from the mic. So right now I had to, tweak some settings and I hope everything is okay now. You can let me know in the comments, but I'll try and watch this video after I'm done before uploading it. But yeah, let's go.
They were hidden by the philosophers. The moon is 2,160 miles as its diameter. Same number as the number of feet, 216, for the height of the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico. We multiply the diameter of the moon by...
That's one crazy coincidence, man. Like, who really built the pyramids? This I ask most of the time. Like, I ask my friends most of the time. And it's funny how every time someone wants to study if someone wants to know more about our planet or the universe in general, we can't do anything without connecting the dots between the pyramids, the earth, and the surroundings, right? And the surroundings. So it's like, what can I say? The pyramids hold a very deep secret. If we can only crack the code, then we'll be set. We will be, what can I say? We will be these kind of beings that really understand our universe, because even right up to now we don't understand our universe, man. But let's go.
216 for the height of the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico. We multiply the diameter of the moon by 400 exactly, and we get the diameter of the sun. Do you know what the exact point inside of the sarcophagus is on planet Earth? If we were to measure it and look at its degree measurement, latitude and longitude, the latitude for the exact center point of the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber is 29.9792.458 degrees. The speed of light is 299,792,458 meters per second. These things were hidden by the polymaths. Polymath is to be a philosopher.
I think there's one video I saw, or like one documentary, right? This guy was talking about polymath, like poly meaning like many learnings. Like you have to be open to a lot of what can I say? A lot of possibilities, right? Not where you're stuck to just one thing. So practically, the people that came before us used to treat mathematics or math not the way we do, or not the way like we treat it right now. To them, it was like like a broad subject. But right now, when we talk about math, it's the usual, 1 + 1, 2 + 2, and the rest. But them, it was like, an endless ocean of possibilities. But yeah, let's go. Let's see what he has to say about this.
These things were hidden by the polymaths. Polymath is to be a philosopher. And remember, mathematics didn't mean study of math as number, study of quantity of science, right? It meant learning. So poly means many, math meant learning. Polymath is many learnings. That's all that is. So the doorway to become a philosopher was to be a many learner. And once you became a
almost closer to what I said, but yeah, you get my point. I'm sure you do get my point.
So the doorway to become a philosopher was to be a many learner. And once you became a philosopher, then you got into esoteric and wisdom and mystery schools. So the Egyptian mystery schools is where all the polymaths, philosophers went. They all went there. In fact, you must go there. It is part of the process of initiation. So Leonardo da Vinci went there. Plato went there. Pythagoras spent 30 years there. They all go to the Egyptian mystery schools to learn in the land of
And
Canaan.
Yeshua.
And Yeshua went there. Jesus and John the Baptist both broke into the pyramid. They both went there. They both studied.
You know, that line just cracked me up. You just think of the knowledge that is in there, man. Oh, that was in there. I'm sure it's no longer there. If it was there, maybe it's like everything, all the books that were there are probably in the Vatican City or something. I don't really know.
Yeshua went there. Jesus and John the Baptist both broke into the pyramid. They both went there. They both studied at the mystery schools. Do you know there was a mystery school that had been in existence for almost 500 years, that was closed down by Nazis when they occupied Egypt in 1944? Why was there a mystery school with the name of Leonardo da Vinci's School of Egyptian Mysteries? Why did that even exist? The reason it existed is because Da Vinci, during his lost years of his life in Italy, spent 3 years, just over 3 years, in Egypt working for the Sultan of Cairo. He wrote about it in his compendium of his works after he died, which was called the Codex Atlanticus. It's in reference 1336 and 1337. It tells the entire story and it's written not backwards, because all of his texts are usually in backward mirrored text. So you'd have to look at it through a mirror to be able to read it easily. Although there is a good exercise to write backwards, because once you start writing backwards, it absolutely strengthens the other side of your brain that's your non-dominant side. So whether you're left-handed or right-handed, just use the opposite hand. So it's teaching you that ambidexterity, but at the same time, it's helping you see the mirror of consciousness, because that's what you start to tap into once you find this heart-brain balanced awareness. This is another exercise to do, but he wrote this letter in forward text. So whenever Da Vinci, because he always wrote backwards, whenever he writes forwards, it's encrypted. This was a draft letter, and it was titled "To the Devedar of the Sultan of Cairo, Babylon." And he tells the entire story how he's engaged by this sultan to be an engineer on a confidential project, right? Doesn't say whether it's architectural. It sort of implies it's architectural, but it doesn't say exactly what it was. Although, what he does do is he goes through in very high detail his experience at Mount Taurus. Now, everybody believes that Mount Taurus must be a reference to the Taurus Mountains that are in Armenia. In fact, Mount Ararat would have been one of those such mountains. This is where the Noah's Ark was supposedly, up at the top of, landed after the flood. And he describes the town that he was in, a place called Kalindra or Calendar. There's no such town ever in the history of either Turkey or Armenia with this name. He was not referring to that. What you have to understand is that the original name of the Giza Plateau was Ras Tau. And if you read it backwards, it's Tau Ro. Another way to pronounce Tau, which is basically a Tau is a letter T, you rotate it slightly and it becomes Kai Ro. The Bull Mountain that he's referencing, exactly.
Another one fun fact, I've been in China for 10 years. I'm going to clock my 11th year, but I can count on one hand how many people I've run into that really know that Africa is not one country. Africa is a continent, right? So this actually just begs the question, what if Africa united and just became one country? But yeah, Egypt is in Africa. I'm sure a lot of, maybe there's someone, in case someone didn't really know this, or I don't know, I just thought I should say it or something.
Kai Ro. The Bull Mountain that he's referencing is actually shown to us in hieroglyphics. The original name of the Great Pyramid, among its names, one of them is Mer, and all three pyramids are Mer, Ka, and Ba. But the name of the Mer Pyramid is actually to the Apis bull. The chevrons, right, and a bull. So you see two chevrons and a bull, and that is the original name of the Great Pyramid, which means Bull Mountain. So he was referring to the pyramid, the Great Pyramid. And in this, he even says, it seems that they touch the sky, and it's oriented in such a way that it has sunlight on its east and west side an equal amount during the day, because it's perfectly situated due north. He's exactly described, it's covered in the most resplendent and gleaming white limestone, is how he describes it. And he goes into a room, or a cavern within this mountain, Bull Mountain, and the name of that the cavern that he's talking about is this great cavern, which is actually a reference to the king's chamber. And right before you walk into the king's chamber, you have to bow, you have to sort of bend over. It's exactly 39 inches high. It's just 1 meter high, right? So we're not supposed to have a meter back then, but they measured it exactly as a meter. You kind of go in with your back hunched over, and he says he put his hand on his forehead, like waddling back and forth because it's about the same height as a bar. Right? And he had this overwhelming feeling, by his own description, of going into this room of mystery and fear at the same time. What was going to be lurking within that place in the darkness? What was he going to experience? Great fear and hope at the same time. And I remember the first time I went to the Great Pyramid, that's exactly how I felt. A mix of fear and hope. I'm like, what in the heck am I going to be dealing with here? Is there some like giant dog man going to come out and get me or something? I've spent now 11 nights inside the Great Pyramid.
Wow.
So you got all of this stuff sort of playing out, and the story of Osiris playing out. And Osiris is personified by the constellation of Orion. The 3 stars on the belt match exactly the proportion positions of the Teotihuacan.
This is the kind of history they should be teaching us in schools, not some made-up history. Okay, so like this is the kind of history that I would really enjoy, like in school, back when I was in school.
The 3 stars on the belt match exactly the proportion positions of the Teotihuacan Plateau pyramids, match exactly the proportions of the Rostau Plateau, which is what we now refer to as the Giza Plateau, right? The Chinese pyramids as well. You see this relationship all over the world with these ancient pyramid sites. And by the way, they were all built on the same units of measure too. For example, the pyramids in Mexico, the base of the Pyramid of the Moon, is exactly the height of the pyramids in Mexico, all built on the same.
This just also proves the fact that the Earth, right, was once just one. At one point, it was just one big continent, like one huge piece of land. But because of the tectonic plates moving and Pangea and the rest, so like everything is divided. So like I would love for all the parts to actually come back together and join, but for that process to happen, it's going to take millions of years, if not, I don't really know, 1 billion maybe or something. And so many disasters are going to occur before then. So let's go.
Units of measure too. For example, the pyramids in Mexico, the base of the Pyramid of the Moon, is exactly the height of the Great Pyramid, which is 432 long cubits, 1.75 feet to each long cubit. When you look at the height of the Pyramid of the Sun, it's 216 feet, right? And you'll notice these are harmonic numbers, 432, 216. They always sum to 9, the geometric numbers. Right? That same height is matching as well the Menkaure Pyramid. So these are clearly harmonic relationships. You look at the Pyramid of the Sun, it's 216 feet. Well, that's 25,920 inches. What's the significance of that? That's the long period of this orbit that we have with Sirius A in years. And by the way, if you just look up right now and Google how far is the sun from the center of the galactic disk in Milky Way, it's 25,920 light years. So how is it all so perfect? How is it all so perfect? I mean, when you think about Pyramid of the Sun, Pyramid of the Moon, do you know what the chances are of us getting a perfect solar eclipse would be? We're the only planet in the solar system that has a solar eclipse. Do you know that? Do you know how that can actually happen? How does that even occur? Well, what has to be the case is the diameter of the 2 objects have to be in proportion the difference between the distance between the objects and the vantage point that you're looking at them from. So for example, the moon is 2,160 miles as its diameter. Same number as the number of feet, 216 for the height of the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico. Exactly the same. Okay, so 216, 2,160. We double that, we get 432, right? The diameter of the sun is 864,000 miles, making its radius 432,000 miles. So wait a minute, that's a note A in Pythagorean tuning as well, by the way. So that means that with 2,160 miles as the diameter of the moon, we multiply that by 400 exactly, and we get the diameter of the sun. That's kind of a mind blower. Okay, so, but then is the distance in proportion 400 times also? And yes, it is. The distance on average is about 232,000 miles between Earth and the moon. You multiply that by 400, it turns out to be 93 million miles, which is the distance we are from the sun. The average of the aphelion and perihelion. The largest distance.
You know, I hope soil erosion hasn't affected the height of the pyramids, because if it has, then I would say this is just like, you know, some special coincidence, and these are just random numbers, but it's too much to be a coincidence, man. So yeah,
Distance we are from the sun. The average of the aphelion and perihelion. The largest distance from the sun, shortest distance from the sun. That's kind of mind-blowing.
For me, it makes sense, but then there's got to be people, of course, listening right now are like skeptical, saying like, you're just making up random numbers. And as someone who's into mathematics, what do you think the probability is that all of these mathematics are random? Is that even a possible hypothesis?
No, it's like, that's why I kind of laugh at that, because it's like, no, this is not possible. So, and if you don't believe it, just look them up, okay? Look up the diameter of all of these things. You'll find also that because the sun has its diameter of, 432,000 miles, is why the sun has a circumference that's the Euler number. It's 2.718 million miles. It's hidden in plain sight. I mean, literally in plain sight. We look at it every day. But the metaphor is more important to me. The metaphor that the moon is, from our vantage point standing on Earth, the exact same size as the sun on average as we look at it. You notice that? Have you noticed that before? You look at the size of the moon, it's in the sky, it's got the silver color, you got the gold color, but they're basically the same size.
Yeah.
Don't you find that a little strange? I don't know. So I think there's a metaphor there about how we perceive the feminine, the moon, masculine, right? Masculine being relational to the sun. So what Da Vinci did is he put on his squared circle, and by the way, it wasn't even a squared circle because he didn't match the area of the square and the circle in his very famous illustration. It's probably arguably the most famous illustration that we look at today. In fact,
the Vitruvian Man.
Yeah, the Vitruvian Man. If the radius is 1 unit of the circle, then the area for that circle should be pi, because it's pi r squared, right? This is radius squared times pi still equals pi, because 1, right? 1 is the radius value. Well, guess what the value is for the square? This is 200 years before this number was even discovered by Isaac Newton. It's the Euler number. The exact area. So artists throughout history, again, the problem of not having polymaths around, the artists throughout history are looking at it going, that's pretty, looks good. Not even really thinking that the area doesn't match. It's not even close. Da Vinci was a lot smarter than that. If he was trying to match the area, the mathematicians are looking at, this is a joke. It's not even close. It's far away. 2.7 is very far from 3.14. Come on. What they didn't understand, though, he was striking a balance between a triangle. So a triangle, an equilateral triangle, from its center point to its top part of it, of its tip up here, the apex, would be 2/3 the length. 1/3 the length is from the center point to the flat base of the triangle, right? If we take that exact same proportion and we use a weighted average value, so we take pi times 2/3, the long portion, right? And we add it to Euler, 2.718 times 1/3, guess what the result comes out to? 3. 3.000. Here we have two transcendentally rational numbers through a simple weighted average around a triangle, coming back to the divinity of the number 3.
Has anyone ever noticed, noticed how science really relies on history? Like, science relies on history too much, that without history, there wouldn't be science, and scientists would be having a hard time trying to come up with new ideas or practically trying to figure out a lot of things. We learn a lot from history. That's just what I'm trying to say. I don't really know if you guys have noticed that. So,
simple weighted average around a triangle, coming back to the divinity of the number 3.
The Trinity.
The Trinity. So to me, the chances that something like this could happen, right? It's like, here's another one. Do you know what the exact point inside of the sarcophagus is on planet Earth? If we were to measure it and look at it at its degree measurement, right? So we're looking at latitude and longitude. The latitude for the exact center point of the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber is 29.9792. 299.458 degrees. That's exactly what it is. So 299,792,458 degrees. And that is the latitudinal reference to the geolocation of the Great Pyramid. Not just the Great Pyramid, but within its 13 acres.
This guy is so good with numbers, man. I would forget those numbers the moment I hear them. I just, like they would come out from the other side. But he's good with numbers. Yeah.
To the geolocation of the Great Pyramid. Not just the Great Pyramid, but within its 13 acres, down to 1 meter inside of the sarcophagus. Do you know that's the exact speed of light? The speed of light is 299,792,458 meters per second. Did you know that the Great Pyramid, the name of the Great Pyramid, one of it is Mer, which means light? It literally means pyramid. Pyra is a Greek word for fire, which was also used to reference light. Mid is like a mean or center point, the midpoint. The mean of light is the name of pyramid, and it's exactly on the geolocation, at which point in time we had no
Is
reference.
that like the center of light or something? I don't really know, but that's why it's good to learn new things or do research. But let's go. Let's see where. You let me know if you have learned anything from this video, or if you like these kinds of videos. Just let me know, okay? Yeah.
And it's exactly on the geolocation, at which point in time we had no reference to latitude or longitude, if you believe the dynastic building of the pyramid, which would have been 4,500 years ago approximately. But wait, okay, so let's just say that might be coincidence. Let's take the other longitudinal reference. So the longitudinal reference for the same spot is 31.1342 degrees. So that doesn't sound like anything special. It's not speed of light, right? It's not close to the speed of light. But what is it? Well, if you take 31, of course it's going to be related to a circle or a sphere, right? Because degrees are always related to a circularity. So let's take 31.1342 and divide it by 360 degrees. What do we get? We get 0.0864. 0.0864. Now, if you've got on one axis light, and you were going to say the other axis should probably be something related to dark, right?
Sure.
Light, dark, and doesn't time relate to dark? Isn't there something called like gravitational sort of time dilation? Did you ever see that movie Interstellar?
Of course.
Where they landed on that planet, they're only there for like 45 minutes, and the big wave came, and then it was like 23 years went by, they went back to the ship, the guy's all old waiting for them.
Yep.
Remember that? So you've got this time dilation effect, right? So gravity and time must relate to each other then. And every physicist would tell you that that's the case. Because you will have time effects. The time on Jupiter is different than the time here because the gravitational effect there is greater than it is here. So what is this reference of 864? Well, is it a coincidence that we have 86,400 seconds in every day and that the sun's diameter is 864,000 miles? Now, if I could make a perfect time system and I was going to construct it, I'd be like, okay, how do I geometry this shit out, right? I'm going to make this thing. I'm going to have it relate to the thing that I'm going around, and it's going to be related to its diameter. And then that's going to then resolve into every day of 24 hours, which comes out to be the exact relationship of the diameter of the sun, please. So now the latitude and the longitude are light and time references?
Simple.
Really?
Okay.
These things were hidden by the polymaths. They were hidden by the philosophers.
Let me know if you guys learned anything from this video, or I hope everything, or one part of your brain changed, or like you learned something from it. Otherwise, peace, and I'll see you in my next video.